Among all this good news, some might think the worst news is for pricing. Not to me, mate. The worst is to do with this, the Nintendo Switch menus. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome to Mood News. I'm your host Madz, and among all the excitement, sure, a lot of people have been complaining about the price and all that stuff. What I am going to be complaining about is some menus, because as long as I've ever lived, it's not that serious. Since the Switch 1, the biggest complaint was the UI. It just felt a bit too simple, a bit too basic, and it lacked the Nintendo charm. And unfortunately, it's looking like this is following the same thing. So, if you were watching the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, you would have noticed that during showing off the console itself, there was a small little peek at one of the menus, showing that you could trade between like the 4K display and all these different modes for your console. And it looked oddly familiar. There's a little bit of like shiny new stuff with the UI, like the new like bars which are glowing, have like this cool like iridescent bluish rainbowish tint to them. And along with that, you have like the voice chat UI, which looks quite nice and stuff, and that's the use of the C button, which is, I feel like people were coming up with a lot more crazier ideas for what the C button could be than just a voice chat. But hey, it's a voice chat, which is kind of cool in its own way. But on Twitter, I unfortunately caught something. And also, so actually, before I jump onto what I saw on Twitter, quickly I'll say that with the showing off of that settings menu, which they showed, on a second watch, I noticed something quite sad, which is that the Miis are still stuck in the settings. They don't have their own little icon, nothing like that. They're still in the settings with everything else, which, yeah, a little bit disappointed. They're still there, which is good. I'm glad they're still there, thankfully, but it's a little bit sad and a little bit disappointing where after seeing all the Miis stuff with the Nintendo Direct previously, you know, we saw, you know, Tomodachi Life, and we saw the Miis being used when we were talking about the game sharing and all those things, to then like be jumped to this where it's like, oh, actually guys, yep, sorry, the Miis are still trapped in the settings, no, we're not redoing anything, is quite unfortunate. And then on top of looking and talking about all of that, another thing is the menu, because I was hoping that it would be really nice, really bright, new, shiny, and sort of remind me of a Wii U, you know, sort of have home menu music and stuff. This does not feel like it's going to have that. This feels like it's going to be the standard Switch UI we're used to. So actually, the video I posted the other day where I was talking about like, oh, redesigning the Nintendo Switch UI, I guess it's still relevant. I guess I can still make that video on my main channel if I want to, where I redesign the Nintendo Switch 2 UI. So you know what? Maybe I will do that. But obviously I want to get a better look, because right now all we have is this screenshot. We have the Nintendo Switch Online icon still, which is, it's a little bit, it's fine, but I wish it looked a little bit nicer and was more conjoined with everything else, versus being like a bright red icon. It sort of looks a little bit gross compared to all the other ones, which still seem quite nice. So we have the C button, which is for the chat. We have this green thing, which potentially is the news. I'm curious what that is. And we have a Nintendo eShop still, which is good to see. We have screenshots. We have this, which I think is wireless game download, which is such a cool feature. Oh my God, I want to do a whole video talking about that. But they're bringing it with, what is it? 58 worldwide classics, whatever it is. And that actually had a game share thing in it already, but you have to download a separate app to do it. So to have it be built in where you could just share, do DS downloads, or, you know, I guess S2 download is what we call it now. Switch 2 download to play games and share experiences like that is super cool. Maybe you can have it with Mario Kart World where people can play Shy Guys, huh? That could be kind of fun. And they're like blocked off to only be in certain parts of the map. That would actually be a really cool feature if Nintendo do that, to get people playing Mario Kart more like how we did in the DS days. And then we have, you know, a standard controller button, a game card sharing thing, which is also, it's sort of interesting to have these two new features of like the game card, like the virtual game card sharing and the sort of DS download mode available on the hub at the bottom, because that makes me think like, okay, like both of them are sort of similar features, but I feel like some people might get confused with how they work or something. Regardless, it's cool to have them. They're really, really nice features. And I think along with like people sort of stressed out about the price and everything else, these are two very, very welcome features which are very user-friendly, and I think that they're bloody great. And then obviously we have the settings icon and the turning off icon, but that's about it. It's in plain white. The icons are slightly more curved, which makes me a little happy. I'm glad they're not as sharp. It's definitely an upgrade. It's definitely a decent upgrade from previous on the Nintendo Switch UI, but I'm sorry I got myself hyped up. I really shouldn't have. I wasn't even expecting to see Miis in this. I'm like, no, they don't really care that much. My friends were like, no, wait, hang on, they might actually. So yeah, it's a little disappointing, but I'm not that upset about it. At the end of the day, it works, it's fine. And you know what? It's another thing for me to complain about and make videos about. So, you know, I would say I'm not complaining. I am complaining, but, you know, like a good complaint sort of way, you know, it's something, you know, no company, no console will ever be perfect. And I guess this is, you know, a good thing to complain about compared to anything else. You know, it's like, again, if a pricing wasn't like a big discourse for people, and this was the biggest issue, I'd be like, guys, we're fine. We're chilling. We're absolutely fine. But yeah, it's an interesting time to be a Nintendo fan. Also, something which is interesting is you'll be able to connect your Joy-Cons, like your previous Joy-Cons from your Switch 1 to this console. And it's interesting as well because you see like the icons for the Switch 2 Joy-Cons and like they're slightly more curved. So it'll be interesting to see that next to like the more sharper edge ones, or not even that more sharper edge, but it'll be interesting to see them be distinguished. Something interesting as well, I don't know if I'll make a whole video about this, but I'll just mention it here, is that we only got one design for the Joy-Cons. We weren't going to get colored Joy-Cons, which is what I predicted. Like, I was doing the bingo yesterday with my friends, and they were saying like, oh yeah, you know what? I think there'll be some colored Joy-Cons. I was sort of in the camp initially being like, no, I don't think we will. And they're like, no, we should. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. Well, you guys think so, but no, I wasn't really expecting colored Joy-Cons yet. We still didn't get any. So it's good news for me feeling chuffed about myself. But yeah, it's sort of interesting because when you look at the gray Joy-Cons and you look at the neon red and blue, this is sort of like the combination of both of them. But I do really wish we got like a white set of them. I think they just look so nice in white. Sort of, again, definitely just want to feel back to like the Wii or like the new 3DS, which had like the base plates and stuff. But it's fine. It's fine. I am really hoping though that the eShop gets a big upgrade. I'm hoping that the Nintendo Switch Online app isn't as cumbersome as it is currently. They really have to update those to make them like really way better than and feel less tacked on and browser based as they have previously. But very interesting choice to remove the news app. Maybe it's still there in that green icon. Maybe they just chose to change to that. But it makes me think that Nintendo Today, the app on your phone, is going to be your new primary source for the news app, because I hardly really went on the news app on my Switch. I'm not sure if you guys did, but usually it was a little bit cumbersome to like, oh, you follow like this app or you follow this. Like it felt sort of like I don't know, kind of like a newsletter or whatever. But then moving away from that, I feel like is kind of cool. I was sort of not upset, but like it would have been nice if we got Miiverse or something, or if we got like 2 rows of Switch games or something. But I guess, yeah, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix. And honestly, the Switch UI does work fine. It's just like from a creativity perspective, it's, you know, not the most enthusiastic. And that's something which I sort of miss from Nintendo. So it would have been nice to see that. But regardless, we got a really cool lineup of games to talk about. And damn, I really hope that my throat doesn't go because it's already feeling kind of sore. I guess 2 streams and 3 videos of recording back to back does that, but you know what? We'll have to keep going. But with that, I will talk to you guys later.